we still appreciate your business, being consistent on the stream. Let me just try to find this here.
The Morpheus comment had me dying, by the way. Pretty funny.
Stream. All right, there it is. Chesbro demo Agent Sunshine, and it's gonna open here.
Is it a link or is it a file?
It's a file, I believe.
Okay, so I have to open it up too.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, mine was super easy to play, but okay. I have it open. You ready?
Yeah. Let me just get it on the screen here.
All right.
Because it was in a different tab than the one that's shared.
All right, guys, we got Chesbro, all caps. Remember the name. This song title is called Agent Sunshine. It's a work in progress. So help out our boy. Give some feedback in the chat. Let him know what he can do before he releases it. Description, he says, not sure about further development. Considering wrapping within dead space or maybe keeping it minimalistic. I like a vegetable structure, but convention is not a virtue I hold as an absolute. Yeah. I'm interested to hear this because usually your stuff is the opposite of minimalistic. So I'd like to see what your take is on this. You can follow him at www.bro.dog. Yeah, that's for real. Pretty crazy. But yeah, are you ready to play it?
Oh man, let's see. Let's see if we can get this working.
Maybe I can copy paste it to your chat. I have it ready, but
it's probably not a URL though, isn't it?
I don't know.
Oh, you did it from. Okay, let's see if that works.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think we should probably remove the email from there because I'm remembering that if we get files just emailed and they're like in the email itself, yeah, they're a lot more difficult to open. Wow, this is super loud on my end for some reason.
No, that sounds like Chesbro. Chesbro's typically loud. It's on SoundCloud if you didn't read it.
All right,
I've got it. Okay, what's up, bro?
I've got it up now. What the fuck is going on?
You ready? I don't know what you're saying, bro.
Weird volume interface with this HubSpot thing. All right, yeah, we should be good to go.
All right, Agent, I think Sunshine. Let me see. Yeah, Agent Sunshine, work in progress. Chesbro. 3, 2, 1.
Alright, so what's the game plan here? How are we doing this one? Well, oh, yeah, hey, the sun comes out, I can see a new day, it's 19 degrees and it's calling my name, not a cloud inside, or a worry in my brain, I swear life shine brighter when you learn pleasure from pain, the sun comes out, I can see a new day, it's warm outside, ring, fate's calling,
Chesbro, I want you to rap on this.
Sunshine. No. Produced, mixed, mastered, rapped, sung by Chesbro himself. We got some love in the chat too. Group
Yeah.
935 says, Chesbro, this sounds lit. Thanks, bro. Adding people. Hey, I'm just saying what I hear. The vocals really pop with this though. It's nice. It's set one. Thank you, Kaido. I do think the vocals really pop as well. Josh, what's your first impressions with this?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm impressed as usual with the fact that he did all of this himself. I think it's like the song definitely has a really uplifting vibe, which is cool. Let's see what else. I definitely like the song. Oh, and the vocal thing too. That's what I was trying to think of. I think the vocals sound pretty clear overall, which is nice. The thing that I was kind of struggling with, to be honest, though, throughout pretty much right from the beginning, man, there's got to be some sort of like crazy limiting or maximizing or something.
It's brick walled for sure.
Like whoa, like really, your brain can't really handle listening to audio like that for a long time, and it was for me right from the beginning. It was sort of like whoa, like information overload, because you're just like your bits are all at 100% like the whole way through, and it's quite fatiguing on the ear to not have any dynamic. Yeah, it's pretty. It can be very fatiguing to not have any dynamic range. I would be really curious. I would actually be curious because you're here. What your mixing setup like? I just am curious to know like what kind of monitors you're using. What does your room look like? Was this mixed on headphones or with monitors? And did you apply some master bus compression and limiting to this? Because those would be good to know just to sort of diagnose here. But yeah, that's the main thing I heard. There's just so much extra like spectral information that's just bombarding your ears because it's all compressed a lot.
Rumors said the same thing. He says I felt the mix was a bit too overbearing. I think that's exactly what we hear.
Which is a shame because I think that the song underneath sounds really good. It's like a nice chord progression, and it's again it got that nice uplifting vibe. The vocals sound really clear. But it's the whole thing is shrouded by this just like atomic bomb level of like compression and like of course I just compressed the shit out of my mic just now. But yeah, that's my main thing, and that's for the production area. I might even just go backwards and say like production would definitely be a develop for me. I think pieces are there, but it might just help to like remove some of that master bus stuff or whatever's going on, or try out a more clear setup if that's the case. If you're not able to hear that on your own setup, that could be a real problem because other people are hearing it differently than you are.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint each kind of instrument that's going on.
Yeah,
what we heard is what we heard because
I couldn't tell you. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what instruments were going on there. KRK monitors. Okay, so that's a good like basic sort of
rip ear rip not. Sorry, I just read his comment. Rip ear rape. Sorry, boys. I use FL Studio.
I glossed right over that part. I mean, FL Studio is fine. Again, KRKs are like sort of entry level, but are okay. I would say it's not mixed in the original. Export is lost, so it's the only file. Huh? Okay.
What? So
that's an issue.
Will you be able to work on it still? That's sad.
So like this is a workflow thing. You should never. Like, if you want to do music professionally and you lose files, you're fucked. Like, especially if you're a mixing engineer, right? If you ever do like client work for other people and you lose files, that's super bad. Anybody who does creative work, whether it's like video or film or audio or music, backs up their files rigorously. So just like make sure you have a hard drive on hand and have that thing plugged in at your workstation or whatever. Or just make sure to back it up every day or week or whatever. Because man, we want to hear it like, with some of those layers removed. He said try to make it cap out at 6 to 7 decibel limiting wise. But that one's mixed somewhere upward of 8.
One of a kind.
I mean, again, if you're using if you're using a limiter or something that is applying limiting. It doesn't matter what your decibel cap is because if it's applying a hard ceiling, that ceiling could be at 0 or it could be So yeah, I would just be super conscious of that. Again, maybe the room that you're mixing in it doesn't have any treatment, and you're really not hearing things the way they're actually happening. If stuff is reverberating and uh, there's a whole nother science to all of that stuff. But even with decent monitors in a room that's too small or is too reverberant, you're really not. It's like trying to paint with like rose-colored glasses on, sort of. Um, so yeah, I would just definitely be careful about that stuff. Do you have anything else about production? I guess we're sort of going backwards here a little bit in the
Well,
categories.
I mean, honestly, it's the first thing that we heard, like from the very beginning.
Right.
It just everything sounded brick wall. Which it's unfortunate you can't fix it, Chesbro. It was kind of interesting because, what we usually hear from you is like really energetic, kind of spin vocals at your fucking throat, and this was kind of like a nice, kind of soft change up of you singing, and it sounded pretty decent. A lot of the people kind of agree with us that it came through the mix really well. But yeah, everything else just sounded very distorted. Like at one point, I was like, "Oh man, the kick is really smashed," and I was like, "Oh wait, actually, this like synth and drum pattern is really smashed too." And I was like, "Oh no, no, just like the whole thing is kind of smashed."
Yeah.
So yeah, if you could still work on it, that's what we would give you. But I mean, if you can't find it, that's unfortunate. But on to the next
Right.
project. Just try
But
not
by
to.
the way,
But
yeah, he put a couple things in the chat here. Said
what
I have the
compressor do
original
you
beat
recommend?
and breakdown, but not the original vocal stems. He says I use a baby blue bottle
Powered mic. Okay.
powered mic, which that's fine. I think your vocals sound okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that mic. Honestly, I've heard people get good results from it.
Hmm.
220 ohm headphones doesn't really say much, unless without knowing what they are specifically.
Yeah.
That could
What?
be an option if your room setup is really bad and you can't invest in treating the room.
Yeah.
If you have good enough headphones, especially open back like Sennheiser HD, whatever 600 somethings, that can be a pretty good option for me. Or even like Audio Technica AT-M50X or whatever the fuck they're called.
Yeah. The classic.
But he's also talking about yeah. I mean, these are in studios like everywhere. Like people who can afford $1,000 headphones use these because they're so sort of widespread and reliable. They're like the SM58 of headphones.
Mhm.
But he's also asking about compression recommendations. I would say I don't really have a compression recommendation because honestly, most you can compression itself is one thing that you can really do with stock stuff if you need to.
Yeah.
It's a pretty basic, process or algorithm. Instead of trying to recommend you a plugin, I would say what's probably happening here is you're using a compressor. Maybe you're trying out different presets, or you're changing knobs around, and you're probably choosing whatever is loudest. That's a common mistake, especially when you're starting out with this stuff. Uh, that your ear likes things that are louder, right?
Yeah.
You like to eat things that have a lot of salt and sugar, but that's also
Mhm.
not great for you in excess.
Yeah.
What you want to do is when you're tweaking compressor settings, be very, very cognizant of level matching. So if the level gets louder, you turn your levels down or turn the track down or turn the output of the compressor down so that you can A/B the two and see if it actually sounds better. Because a lot of the time you realize like, oh, at the same volume, the one that I compressed is actually not as dynamic and doesn't sound as good. So that's the biggest tip I can give you with compression.
Yeah.
Says
For
Audio
me, it depends.
Technica.
With vocals, I typically use I found like some compressors sound better, but I think he's talking with like full track, and I agree with Josh. Like you can
Yeah,
slap on the Ableton stock, or I don't know what FL has, but it's mostly like I don't know if this is what you did, but this is what I used to do. Is like I would just try to push up everything with my limiter until right before it started clipping and being distorted. Um, but even doing that, like it's still very you could tell it's very much brick walled and it's very much ear fatiguing and the way that you've arranged the song um, like usually you limit to like the loudest part of the song so you make sure that doesn't clip but your loudest part of the song is like the whole song so that's why it gets so
yeah.
fatiguing
It's hard to
um,
tell. There's kind of a blanket over everything right now where I
yeah
really can't even assess the other elements because they're just like kind of buried by the overall compression that's happening.
yep oh I just wanted to what is it acknowledge the people in chat slit me open yummy blood DX Hey, I made a Legends Never Die remix. Is that by Juice WRLD? The 27 Club. I can't sing right now, but send it in, bro. Both two strapping young demons. We're demons now, by the way, Josh. They're going
Oh
through some
wow.
chat stuff. What compression do you recommend for Vox? I double compress and send the Vox to a reverb. One main channel for main Vox, four backing Vox, two left, two right. All sent to one reverb track. No, that sounds pretty standard. Um, would you mix the
Yeah,
vocals
but
differently via layers?
I
Mix the
mean,
vocals differently.
some of
I
this stuff is
so
like,
if I do backing vocals, I would typically cut off the low end a little bit more, such that the body of the vocal comes through the main one. In terms of compression, what I recommend for Vox, because like I said, for me, I found that some plugins do better for my personal ear. Sorry, a lot of people in the hip hop game use Waves plugins. So I think for my vocal specifically, I do Waves CLA 76, I think.
yeah,
Um,
those are great. 1176 clones are generally good, but
yeah.
you know,
So if I were to give you one recommendation for you to look up, just try that. It's a pretty simple interface too, so it's hard to do wrong. Let's put it that way.
yeah,
With
that's
some
true.
with some limiters and compressors, that they have a lot of stuff you can tune. If you don't know what you're doing, you could end up in a situation where it sounds really bad and you don't know how to get out of
Yeah,
it. So I think
that's true.
the CLA plugins are pretty nice for that. Yeah. Sorry, Josh. What's up?
Yeah. Um, I would also just say that like, I mean, your setup sounds okay. Although, I mean, you are saying like double compress and then send to a reverb, main channel for main box, and four backing vocals, two left, two right, all sent to one reverb track. Would you mix the vocal? It's again, it's hard to say without digging into it because it's not just about like the configuration of
SSL is
stuff.
good too.
Yeah, SSL is also great. It's not really about like the configuration of what you're doing, although that's good to know. It's more about how you're arranging things and setting them up, right? Because it's like it's
Yeah.
a drastically different result depending on how you're actually parameterizing. It's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like we can't really tell
Yeah.
you like you should have this chain and it'll sound great. Like you have, at the end of the day, your ears are the only thing that will create a positive end result.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think
I would
the
say like
point where sorry, I think where the point where chains, like specific ones, matter is like after you have the basic settings down.
yeah,
Like after it sounds pretty good and you want to have like a specific color to your sound that only one thing kind of
yeah,
does automatically, that's when you're like, okay, let's do SSL or let's do Wave. But yeah,
right.
before that,
They're
like, yeah,
tricks. They're tricks that you can use for sure, but it's more like the sort of pyramid of hierarchy here is first you need to get your listening setup down because if you can't see or hear clearly, you're not going to be able to make any decisions as you think you're actually making them. They're not going to translate to other people's ears or listening systems the same way. So step one, make sure that your listening system is right. Then you need to understand the basics of like why is my compression sounding better to my ears but then sounding worse to other people's, and that could be like the technique is not there. So making sure that you're not just getting louder, volume matching before you do those things, and then understanding like once you start to do that, you start to get much greater insight into what different effect parameters, especially with compression, actually do to your sound rather than just sort of like aimlessly turning things around and usually actually just getting a volume difference and then assuming it sounds better. When you can level match compare these parameters, it makes a world of difference to getting a more finely tuned sound and understanding what your compressor is doing. So
how
I would
can how
start.
can how can you do that? I know that some plugins like Ozone, for example, for limiting, they have a gain match feature where they like
Yeah,
bring everything like before you put it into limiter and then after and then
yeah.
match it to see like, okay, did you actually smush the sound or does it sound actually better? How do you do that without something like that?
Yeah, simplest way to do it is just there's usually almost always an output volume on the limiter or compressor that you're using.
Yeah.
So play with that until and turn the plugin off and turn it off and on until it sounds like they're at the same volume.
Okay.
That it's not always like perfectly gonna match because compressors often will add some character in different frequency ranges, and so you might have louder volume in your low end, but quieter in your high end, and then level matching them can be a challenge sometimes. But if that's what you're
Yeah, as
going
a rule
for,
of
and
thumb, I see.
yeah, as a rule of thumb, try to get them close so that one is clearly louder and sounding better to your ears. Uh, which can kind of be a letdown because you're like, oh my god, it sounds so much better now. Then you level match them, you're like, fuck, the original sounded better. If there's nothing wrong with it, don't compress it. There are tracks that you may not actually need to compress, especially if you're going through something like a baby blue, like a bottle. Fuck, there's too many words in that name, but that mic I think does apply some light sort of compression type effect. And depending on what preamp you're going through, you might already be applying some compression without knowing it. So you may not need to add as much as you think. There are a lot of mixing engineers out there who, when they get a track that sounds good from the start, they do as little as possible to it because you don't want to ruin something that already sounds good. There's no reason to. Now, we've got a lot of chat going on here.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we
let's
should
see. This
kind of
dude
wrap
with
it up
the,
though with
what is it?
Chesbro though.
What is his username?
Hello. Oh, Josh.
Colors when you hear music. Sometimes a little bit. Do you?
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, let's wrap up Chesbro before we read to the next chat because we've been on it for a while.
Yeah,
so
sure.
thank you, Chesbro, for sending it.
Wait, we never did our scores.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to that. In terms of vibes, if I were to just go through it real quick, this sounds mostly smushed. I think your vocal delivery is refreshing from what I've heard before. Actually, in those blank sections, I would like you to actually put in some of the more energetic rap. That's what I was waiting for. I was kind of craving. I think vibes, I would say it's kind of like a yellow. I'm waiting on it. Content. I think content-wise, it was decent. It was unfinished, right? So, but I'd rather have you those energetic rapping sections there. So it's like a yellow-green for me. And then production, I think it's definitely a yellow because I think it sounds brick wall to shit. For an overall track of yellow, please develop it, and hopefully you can find the originals. If not, I mean, you can record vocals again. It's all good. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just requesting access on Rumors' file. Looks like it's not shared.
Damn, Rumors, come on, bro. You got to give us access.
That's why I opened it, because I was worried that was going to happen. But, yeah, let's see. Vibes, I would say, again, I think we went through this, but I thought it was, vibes were nice, although kind of, impinged by the other factors there that we talked about already. So I give it, mostly good to go. Probably, halfway between develop and good to go. Content, a little bit hard to tell, because it was just mostly the focus was on the whole thing sounding too saturated. And I don't know, I'd probably give it again between yellow and green on that one, just because it's a little hard to tell. And I did think that the end part, there were maybe a few too many repetitions of that same part, without a whole lot else happening. So that could be a factor. And production, like we talked about, that's definitely a developer, maybe even Orange, honestly, because there's some stuff that should be redone in terms of processing there. Although I don't know if that's possible now, but hopefully that information is useful for creating a more robust mixing routine and setup, and just gaining more knowledge in that area, because that's super important for the end product. So yeah, track totals, I would give it a develop probably overall.
Yep, I think so too. Sorry, I'm coughing up a storm.
I feel like you're
boys.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, thanks, Chesbro, for sending us stuff. It's always interesting to hear every week. Always something different from you. So keep